It's all come down to the last damn chapter. Well, at the time, it was the last chapter anyways. Because what we now got. So, after a decently fine sequel, Saw 6. So, I'll recap this. When Saw 6 was released in theaters, it was not very successful. And I know why. And I think you all probably will want to know why. Because 2009, October 2009 also had another horror movie come out. One horror movie that actually claims on IMDb it was released in 2007, even though it was actually released in 2009. So, yeah, screw 2007 people. It's a 2009 film. Don't argue with me. That horror movie that caused Saw 6 to fail was none other than Paranormal Craptivity. So yeah, Paranormal Craptivity, aka Bumhouse, got launched that year, was born into the horror industry, and they murdered the Saw franchise, and replaced it with several damn Paranormal Craptivity sequels, with another one coming on the way. Wow. When I heard that seventh Paranormal Craptivity announcement, I wanted to die. Yeah, because, to be fair, I have seen Paranormal Craptivity, guys, and I was not a big fan of it. I thought it was very boring. I thought it was very overhyped. And plus, it had an extremely unlikable protagonist named Mika. But I'm not talking about Paranormal Craptivity. I'm talking about this atrocious abortion. That's this garbage. Ugh. God, this is probably the worst Saw movie ever made. The fact that a decent sequel like Saw 6 has to be followed up with this. How could you go from Saw 6 to frickin' this? I just want to know that. There's actually several reasons why. Well, technically Saw 7 was going to be 2 movies, but we know since Paranormal Craptivity came out, beat its Saw 6's ass at the box office, ruined Saw 7, and made it this portion. And you have Paranormal Craptivity to thank for that. But that wasn't the only reason. No. Eventually, producers saw the 3D that was all over the world thanks to Avatar, another overrated piece of crap in 2009, was successful with its 3D visuals. So now everything was in 3D. So, the Lionsgate executives decided to view a few minutes of the first film in 3D, and apparently, they loved it. They thought it would be epic in 3D. I swear to God, were they on drugs when they did that decision? Because it clearly seems like they were on weed when doing this decision. But anyway, this movie, the problem with this movie is that it hardly feels like a Saw movie at all. Because, while Saw 5 is the second worst, at least that one felt like a Saw movie. At least it acted like a horror film. Like, this movie just feels like a freaking comedy. Because the camera quality is so shit in this film. It's just hard to believe. Like, when they did it in 3D, the blood just looks pink. Pink. Looks like, yeah. But enough about that. Let's just explain the plot before we get into the rest of this review. As a deadly battle rages between Jill and Hoffman over Jigsaw's brutal legacy, a group of Jigsaw survivors gathers to seek the support of self-help guru and fellow survivor Bobby Dagan. but that can hide his own dark secrets, ones that will unleash a wave of unrelenting terror and suffering in this heart-stopping finale to the most successful horror movie series of all time. My god. Let's get the rest of this rant over with. Now, we all know, when Saw franchise was big, we always heard this tagline, if it's Halloween, then it must be Saw, which was repeated over the years to every advertising for every Saw movie they did. Usually, yeah, like, releasing a Saw movie every Halloween was like a Halloween tradition for Lionsgate. With this final installment, however, it's the final chapter. Well, at the time it was the final chapter. Now, guys, you're wondering if you hate this movie, why do I own it? Because, well, I'm a collector, so I'm a fan of the series, so I gotta own every Saw movie. So yeah, that's why, but, oh man. I popped the movie on when I was finally getting interested in the Saw franchise. I regretted doing so. This is like, I've never come close to shutting off or turning off a movie in my life, but this movie really did the trick, or even came close to throwing out a DVD. But I don't do that because that's money wasting, guys. So the reason I still keep bad movies in my collections. Now, oh my god. What else am I gonna say? So, however, financially, this movie did a lot better than Saw 6, apparently. Or somewhat better, not really saying much. Some moviegoers actually paid to see Saw 3D. As credibility goes, producers threw it out the window. Like I said, Saw 3D, or Saw the Final Chapter, is without a doubt the worst installment in the whole series. It's so bad, I can't stress that enough. It has the most ridiculous plot, and fails visually. Like, the camera quality in this movie is so terrible. Like, it's so blurry and a lot of shots, you can hardly see shit. Even without the 3D, it still sucks. Now, Saw 7, Saw Final Chapter, Saw 3D. There's so much going on, and you do never get bored with it. There's about 11 traps, which is the highest in franchise history. The Hoffman and Jill storyline is still there, presented on the side. However, there's a problem. We've all seen this before. We've seen someone go through a series of tests against a timer, some gruesome traps, and the now predictable twists. Not only is material in the film recycled, it's just poorly made. The plot is ludicrous. The acting is horrible. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I almost went, man, shame it didn't break. But the guy who plays Bobby, in this film, he is a terrible, terrible actor. Like, Bobby Dagan is a horrible protagonist. Probably one of the stupidest protagonists in Saw history. He's, like, number one. Like, not even the other protagonists I think are dumb in the Saw series are this stupid. Because here's the thing. When he's in the game, he fails to save anybody. Whenever he tries to save anybody, he fails and everybody dies. Everyone he has to save is just killed right away. And then there's a flashback of him. He meets John Kramer, and guess what they do? Apparently, he's dressed up as an old version of frickin' Eminem. Like, he's got the hat on backwards, he's got a sweater on. Tom Bell has that sweater on, he's got his hat, like, cap backwards, and just looks like a frickin' rapper. Like, once again, what drugs were Lionsgate on when they made this? Like, it just feels like a frickin' comedy. Often feels like a big budgeted fan movie than a Saw film. The traps even lack creativity. The 3D even looks cheap, and it isn't utilized at all. And another thing, considering John Kramer's cameo scene where he meets Bobby, is like, John Kramer, H without an H doesn't matter. Yeah. And plus, he's literally in the film for just about a few 5 minutes, maybe even less. And now there's one good thing I will give. Carrie Elways, who played Dr. Gordon in the original film, is back, which is weird considering he never wanted to play in the sequels. But even he has limited screen time. So basically, a majority of the main characters are pushed aside for Bobby Dagen's stupid game, which is such a waste of time. The shock value's disappeared. You've already seen the shock value to death, where you just don't care anymore. You don't even feel for any of the characters. Well, there is one, but except this character in the trap is basically an innocent. In all previous movies, the characters in the traps were criminals. Criminals. In this, the people in the traps are just people associated with Bobby who have no reason to be put in traps, all because they were associated with someone that's being tested. Seriously, you don't feel for them, but they don't. Seriously, these people that got put in the traps were actually innocent people. And if you think that's bad enough, the final one is Bobby's wife, Joyce. She gets the most horrific, grisly death of the series, and she never even did anything wrong. The only reason she's there is because she's Bobby's wife. And guess what? He fails to save her too, and she's pretty much trapped in this Iron Maiden-like device and burns to death. All because of Bobby's actions. So yeah. Not only... Yeah, it's another thing I have. That's pretty much costed any respect I have for Jigsaw as a character. Really. With all these cons along with the cheap 3D make for such a horrible film that shouldn't even bear the Saw title. Here's the thing, guys. If this didn't have any of the Saw villain, if this never had any Saw villains, if this didn't have Jigsaw, and if this were not a Saw movie, and if it were not in 3D, and it were just a movie on its own, it still sucks. Even if the gore actually looked real, it would still be a garbage film. It's so difficult putting the blame on some of the filmmakers. Director Kevin Grutert, he didn't want to come back to direct a sequel, and the pacing and directing of this movie shows. But then again, next film was actually going to be Paranormal Craptivity 2, but he was forced to return since Lionsgate had a clause in his contract for another film, so technically, he was about to get a bad movie. He was basically pulled in Toronto a week before the filming of Saw Final Chapter, and he attempted vigorous rewriting of the script, but it proved to be difficult since the majority of sets were already built. Grutert tried his best to salvage the film, but it ultimately falls into pieces due to the production and incoherent storyline. Producer Mark Berger and writers Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunson should be ashamed for giving into 3D and crazy fan theories. Now, the only positive thing I can think about Saw the Final Chapter is, I guess, the ending. I mean, I kind of like how it just kind of ends in the very place it all started, like the dirty bathroom where the first one all began. And at least ends with the very first subject we saw, which was Dr. Gordon. And, so, Hoffman has killed Jill, and he's getting ready to flee town because he's now wanted all over town, and, the town is now going on lockdown. No, we're not referencing COVID-19, guys. Lockdown because of his murderous actions. So he's forced to flee town straight away, but before he can drive off, it's like he's about to and the franchise is going to end with him getting off scot-free and just continue the games in a different town. These pig-masked figures come in, attack him and sedate him, and one of them is actually Dr. Gordon. And it's revealed that Jill Tuck actually gave an envelope containing a tape from John Kramer ordering him to protect Jill Tuck, and its entry flashbacks revealed that Gordon actually survived the first film, was treated back to health by John Kramer, and became an apprentice, where he set up the Venus flytrap at the beginning of Saw 2. He found Lynn Denlund, helped set up the game for Saw 3, he basically set up the beginning trap for Saw 4, and he wrote that "I Know Who You Are" letter to Hoffman, who, even though Hoffman in Saw 5 thought that was strong writing letter, but it really wasn't. And so he takes Hoffman to the bathroom. Hoffman does try to saw off his foot as soon as he finds the hacksaw, but Gordon pulls it away from him, throws it out of the bathroom, and yeah, he shuts off the lights, yells, says the "game over" tagline, he shuts the door on Hoffman, leaving him to the same fate Adam and Zepp faced. So yeah. And the director's commentary actually confirms that Hoffman actually dies in the bathroom, so before you go thinking he could have escaped, he didn't. And another positive thing at the time was that the franchise was finally over, well, until 2017, of course, but I'm going to get to that in another review. It's run its course, and while people obviously thought the movie would still be bad, never thought it'd be this bad. Man, what started with an interesting concept and ran with it fell flat on its face at the finish line. So yeah, I'm done talking about this movie. This movie can go goodbye. Here's how I'd rank this abortion. I'm going to give Saw the Final Chapter a 2 out of 10. Well, the original 7 are finally done. And now next review is going to be for none other than 2017's Jigsaw. Only one more Saw movie to go. But until then, that'll be it for this review, guys. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to like, subscribe to Movie Lover 120.